What's good with the YouTube, man? This is Real Talk with Flacco. As you already know, I'm coming live and direct. And on this platform, what do? We dive into sensitive issues, delicate matters concerning prison, gangs, community, recidivism, and addiction. Well, man, I've been working on a video, man, I just had recorded a couple hours ago. It's on the Fresno Norteños. It's a very good video, man. As soon as it turns green, if it turns green tonight, I'm dropping it tonight. If not, you guys will get it tomorrow. So I figured, you know what? There's been one question that's been asked over and over again. Can you give us a little elaborate breakdown of the Huelga bird? So let's get to it. So the Huelga bird, right? We all know about Cesar Chavez. Cesar Chavez was the one who started to bring the unions amongst those that work in the farms, the migrant workers and so forth, man. They're out there being put in very dangerous situations where they were being exposed to chemicals, they were being underpaid, they weren't being given lunch hours. They basically had no rights, okay? And Cesar Chavez and several other people were working towards that goal of bringing the rights of the people, you know? And at that time, they wanted to have some type of symbol. And so around 1960, 61, they started creating a symbol. And his brother, Richard Chavez, and his primo, Manuel Chavez, come around 1962, had formed this Huelga bird, right? And this is what they were thinking, okay? The Huelga bird, first and foremost, as you know, it has the Aztec eagle head, which signifies Mexican culture and the strength behind the Mexican people, okay? The color black signifies the dangerous and hard times that they're gonna face in this plight. The white signified the purity and the ambitions of the cause that they were representing, that it was a pure cause and it was for righteous reasons. And the red was for the sacrifices that each farm worker would have to sacrifice in order to obtain their rights. Therefore, there you had the Huelga bird, okay? And see, at that time around, like years later, you know, the NF was doing its own battle against MA oppression. The same way that Cesar Chavez was fighting against, you know, the big farm companies and so forth, and the oppression of them, of the workers, and all the things and tactics they used to deprive people of their rights. Okay, this was the same type of thing that was occurring behind the walls. The NF was fighting against MA aggression. Therefore, eventually, they kind of adopted this symbol and made it into their own. With no UFW, nothing like that. And the whole purpose of that was because they needed to give some type of representation of symbol of what their cause and lucha was outside of just the NF business, because this was when the growing numbers of Norteños started coming into play. This was their struggle. Being that Cesar Chavez represented a lot of people from up north, this was something that people could relate to, you know, being from these areas and still facing a bigger adversary in the MA and the Sureños. But their colors, they broke it down a little bit different, okay? The black represented the death that you face day to day at the hands of the opposition, the hard times, the things that you're gonna have to face in a prison environment that just will totally destroy any other man that doesn't have that self-worth in himself. The white, the purity to understand that fighting against the administration, that fighting against the AB and the MA and all these groups that are out to suppress and take advantage of you, that's a pure and just cause. That's what the white represents, the purity of the movement, okay? And then the red, for the blood that must be shed. Numerous individuals have lost lives from the beginning of the expulsion of the NF to the 80s when the NR was pushing this movement. There's been bodies on both sides and blood was shed. And see, you're gonna have different people that are gonna talk about the 5-step cause. That's all good. You know what I'm saying? Conduct, awareness, unity, security, or communications and so forth. That's all good, man. But what does the Huelga bird really represent? It represents the lucha, the struggle behind the walls to secure, educate, and establish to where any Norteño can go to any mainline and take advantage of all those privileges and incentives and do his time and have a safe haven to where he can take advantage of anything that Pinta has to offer. That's what it all came down to. It didn't come down to one being more powerful than the other or anything like that. It came down to fighting against those that wanted to oppress you because you were from up north, because your numbers were less. Those are the things that used to be fought for, just to have that table right there, to have that phone, you know? Not having someone trying to victimize this homeboy just because he's from up north or from a rural area. That's what the lucha was about. And anybody that did time in the 80s and 90s would understand what I'm talking about. It wasn't easy in the system at that time. Shit would kick off. And the number game was totally different. So you either had to be about that action or you better go jump in the shadows and go somewhere else. And that's what the Huelga bird symbolized. Now you're going to hear different theories. I've heard some crazy theories behind it. First and foremost, I heard a story about some of Cesar Chavez's actions, which called upon certain people from the other side to take action on some of his, protest and so forth. I interviewed the individual from Pastor Rocha's church. Okay, he was a Texas syndicate, and he was very close with Kilroy. And he told me specifically that he was sent by Kilroy to one of these Cesar Chavez functions to cause an interruption and run interference on their activities, because a lot of the people from down that way felt that Cesar Chavez was mistreating the Mexicans that were coming over from Mexico, which is also a fact though. People don't realize that he was calling them out of their names. He was calling them scabs because he felt that they were intruding on what he was trying to do a greater good. You know what I'm saying? Because when all these strikes were occurring, a lot of individuals that were coming from Mexico went in and took those jobs. They were willing to take less. So he had a harsh feeling that it was impeding his movement. And so when Big Al told me this story, right, Texas Syndicate, he said that actually Cesar Chavez said, "What are you doing?" And actually explained to him his situation. I think he either gave him a watch or a ring. And when he told me that story, I was kind of like, wow, man, it all makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Division, dissension. You know what I'm saying? And it gets created that way, man. So the Huelga bird, those are the true symbols of what it represented, man. You're going to have different people that try to put acronyms on it and so forth, man. But just keep it simple. It's about that struggle you face when you hit that prison wall. It's about that struggle back in the days when you and maybe one other homeboy, even by yourself, get sent down south and you're on the guard with 150 Sureños and they're telling you to put your shirt on your back. Or you get sent to another prison, same thing. Hey, you got to cut your Mongolian. They tried to tell me that when I got sent somewhere. It just isn't going to happen. Those are the things that were the struggles. To get to a prison to where you can put your people in position to where we have people in the kitchen, we have people in canteen, we have people at center complex, and we have access to things that could be beneficial or resourceful. Those are the daily struggles. People don't talk about the cold warfare tactics that apply in a prison setting. And what cold warfare is establishing terrain and cutting off other people's resources, making it hard for them to succeed and prosper. So if you have all the good jobs, laundry, kitchen, canteen, and so forth, and if you have certain jobs like a plumber and so forth that gives you access to all the buildings, you're able to do a lot more for your people. And see, these are things that we used to struggle for when I was involved in the game, was establishing things to where would put us in a better position for our people. Everybody's going to take care of their own first and foremost. That's just how prison politics work. And that's the struggle, especially being outnumbered. You know what I'm saying? I've never really been to a place that we really had a strong presence except for Solano and San Quentin. Anywhere else, always outnumbered. I've been in the SHU where I was in the SHU unit, the only Norteño, and there's about 12 Sureños. Yeah, they were all respectful, right? But I knew what time it was if that door cracked open at that time. It was cracking off. Anyways, man, I think the Huelga bird is it's a very touchy subject, man, because what Cesar Chavez truly wanted that Huelga bird to represent is not what the Norteños and NF have represented as gang members. Especially being that there is no more cause or lucha like there used to be. There's no more people who are out there striving and pushing forth for an agenda. Do you think Cesar Chavez would really want some gang members from up north who are selling drugs in the community, who are committing murders and so forth, to be representing that Huelga bird? I don't think so, man. And no one really touches base upon that. That's something you have to think about, But Cesar Chavez, like I said, he had his own personal issues. His treatment of Mexicans that were coming up from Mexico, it was uncalled for. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We got to keep it real, Now, I've also heard back in days that certain security was provided for certain events by either the Brown Braids or actually some NF members that were undercover at that time out there trying to, lend an effort. Those are just rumors you hear from OGs. You know what I'm saying? So, but in general, this is where the Huelga bird came about, man. And it has turned into something that's totally different now. So when you see all these rap videos and they're waving the Huelga bird and so forth, man, it's like, man, that's not a representation of the people no more. Representation of the people is the struggle that you face, the hardships, the overcoming those things, not glamorizing the negative lifestyle of being a criminal. The Huelga bird was never supposed to represent a criminal or a gang member. It was supposed to represent a movement of a fair and just cause. People got the game twisted though. Those are things to think about. Anyways, you know, there's probably a lot more you can really touch about the Huelga bird. Like Cesar Chavez was friends with Black Bob's dad and the mother. You know, but he was never traditionally in communication with any gang members. Now, he was originally from South Cipuelas in San Jose. So did he know people? Yes, he did. But did he employ them in his cause or his struggle? I have no proof or verification of that. Anyways, it's your boy Flacco. Man, the one tomorrow on the Fresno or today is going to be a banger. And it's going to be a positive message like anything. I'm out.